The Cypriot government has approved 3 key bills aimed at meeting the conditions set by the European Union for securing an international bailout. They've agreed to restructure its troubled banks and also separate good debts from bad debts. The other bills, well, they include the creation of a solidarity fund and also a law which gives the government powers to impose capital controls on just how much money will be allowed to leave the banks. Eurozone finance ministers are expected to meet in Brussels on Sunday. They'll be talking about whether Cyprus has done enough. The controversial bank levy, that is still to be decided.
It's make or break time for Cyprus and its ailing banks. When the voting began, there was the sense of a race to the finish, and rightly so, as the clock ticks down towards Monday. If there's no deal with Europe and the IMF by then, bank funds will be cut off. The game here will be up. So they agreed to a so-called solidarity fund, issuing bonds using future gas revenues as collateral. And they voted unanimously for emergency currency controls to prevent a run on the banks when they eventually open. Controversial powers were handed to the central bank governor to wind up any bank he considers unable to meet its liabilities.
We wait and see, in the sense that there are some things that we deem as imperative. They have to do with the integrity of pension schemes. This is the property of people who work there and extremely exposed. And also what is going to happen to the people who work in the bank that is going to be restructured.
Lawmakers also gave the government the power to impose bank controls, and they created a fund that will be the basis for issuing bonds. Today, lawmakers are expected to make up that controversial bank levy or haircut. Reports say accounts of 100,000 euros or more could be taxed between 10 and 20%. The European Central Bank has threatened to pull Cyprus emergency funds on Monday if there's no bailout in place. Meantime, people continue to line up at cash machines as banks remain closed until Tuesday.
Reuters reports that would allow the pooling of state assets for an emergency bond issue. The lawmakers have also agreed to restructure major banks. That could involve dissolving Cyprus's second-largest financial institution, the Laiki Bank. Lawmakers would pare off the part that disposes of bad loans and have the island's biggest bank absorb the rest. Members of the staff union have protested in front of the parliament building. They say breaking up the bank would destroy 2,000 jobs. Cypriot lawmakers still have more bills to pass this weekend. They're reportedly still considering a levy on bank deposits, possibly larger ones. Once they put a plan in place, the European Union must approve it.
While the voting was going on, protesters called for the EU-led troika of international lenders to get out of Cyprus. The island's been told to raise nearly €6 billion to qualify for a €10 billion bailout. The one measure which triggered the crisis, the rejection of a controversial tax on bank savings, could be back on the table in a modified form this weekend.
Cyprus's politicians have voted to allow state control over bank capital to prevent a run on the banks when their doors finally open on Tuesday.
The main purpose of the government is to try and control the situation from Tuesday, when we hope the banks will reopen, because you can understand there will be a near panic situation.
The threat of savers being hit still hangs over the heads of ordinary people like Louisos Mikel. He was taught to cut his coat according to his cloth, an economic maxim passed down the generations. So he worked hard, spent 35 years building up a good business, and looked forward to a wealthy retirement. Not anymore. Times are hard for the 60-year-old tailor.
Ειδικά των τελευταίων καιρών που ήδη εγκλεισμένες οι τράπεζες μας, εγώ προσωπικά δεν έχω βίζα.
With the banks being closed, it is hard because I don't have a credit card, and so cash flow is a problem. Even filling your car with petrol needs thinking about. Cypriots have always been workers by nature, and nobody could have imagined that unemployment would be so high. This has hit us hard in the pockets.
Cyprus is weathering a storm, the likes of which this Mediterranean island has never faced in her young history. In the 90s, Cyprus boasted a dynamic, booming economy, but it grew and grew unchecked. An over-bloated banking sector exposed to Greek debt has crippled the country's economy. Now people like Loizos Mikel must pay the price. He and the rest of Cyprus will soon find out exactly how much that is going to be.